Hello everyone, this is Chris Clark with discoff.law, and today I want to talk about Jonathan Ray and the 2024 Masters at Bud Hill tournament. This is a very popular PDGA sanctioned A-tier tournament that takes place in Memphis, Tennessee each year. Lots of pros who are 40 and over like to play this tournament. Jonathan Ray, in his social media posts, in his email signature, and on the Dynamic Discs website is identified as working in touring and promotions for Dynamic Discs, and he uses a dynamicdiscs.com email address. This year, 2024, the Masters at Bud Hill tournament was scheduled to take place on October 18th through the 20th. A little over a month from the start of the tournament director Jonathan Ray made a post on social media. "I am broken and embarrassed to have to tell you all this. I'm canceling the 2024 Masters at Bud Hill. I tried every way I could think of to salvage this, and I alone am responsible. I used Masters money to fund events and vending fees in the beginning of the season. It has been a horrible financial year, bad enough that I'm having to file for bankruptcy." Now, his post also made reference to some personal medical issues he is experiencing, but he did not go into detail about that. Now, the backlash online from this post was quick and harsh. Jonathan Ray was called a criminal, an embezzler. He was accused of running a Ponzi scheme and was criticized for being so transparent in what to some amounted to a written confession to a crime. The registration fees for this tournament were $150 per player, so it has been estimated that Jonathan misappropriated around $27,000 total in Masters at Bud Hill tournament registration fees. Now, shortly after Jonathan Ray's post about canceling the Masters at Bud Hill, notable names in disc golf such as Terry Miller and Chris Zagone took to social media to vouch for Jonathan Ray's character. In light of Jonathan's affiliation with Dynamic Discs and the fact that this was a PDGA sanctioned event, many voices called for Dynamic Discs or the PDGA to step in and refund the players' entry fees. On September 17th, this is just a few days after his initial social media post about canceling the tournament, Jonathan Ray posted a follow-up. He clarified that he is not and never has been an employee of Dynamic Discs. He represents Dynamic Discs as an independent contractor. And in this follow-up post, he reiterated that he is embarrassed and ashamed, and he apologized again. A day or two later after that, it was announced on the Smashbox podcast that SOAR Disc Golf was stepping in to run the 2024 Masters at Bud Hill. As of the date that we're taping this video, all indications are that the tournament is not canceled and will go on as originally planned. So given the amount of attention this situation has gotten, I thought it might be helpful to clarify some of the legal issues involved. Number one, did Jonathan Ray commit a crime? Before SOAR Disc Golf stepped in to save the day, the answer was almost certainly yes, although he likely did not commit embezzlement like so many uninformed voices on social media believe. The facts involved probably could not support all the elements of embezzlement. But nevertheless, he probably could have been convicted of a lesser offense, such as theft. Now that SOAR Disc Golf has gotten involved, my understanding is they are running the tournament, providing players packs, and fulfilling refund requests. So players who registered for the tournament are either receiving what they paid for or a refund. Without any victims, I doubt any criminal charges are appropriate anymore. Given the fact pattern here and the amount of money involved, I doubt any law enforcement agency or district attorney's office would take much interest in this case anyway. Number two, was it appropriate for Jonathan Ray to use Bud Hill tournament registration fees to fund events earlier in the season. From a legal perspective, there is nothing that requires Bud Hill registration fees to be used only for Bud Hill tournament expenses. The key is that tournament registrants must receive what they paid for, which is essentially a player's pack and the ability to play in the tournament. As a practical matter, it would be an unnecessary burden on tournament directors who run multiple tournaments a year to segregate each event's registration funds that way. Now, to clarify, I'm not suggesting what Jonathan did using Bud Hill registration fees to pay expenses for other events earlier in the year was smart or financially responsible. I'm just saying that as long as the tournament registrants get what they paid for, it's likely not legally relevant how the Bud Hill registration fees were used. Number 3, what liability does Dynamic Discs or the PDGA bear in this situation? The short answer is probably none. By most accounts I have seen, prior to this, Jonathan Ray for a decade or more had earned a reputation as a responsible PDGA tournament director and Dynamic Discs contractor. In order for Dynamic Discs or the PDGA to be held legally liable, there must be some theory of liability. Based on his history, it would be difficult to make the case that Dynamic Discs or the PDGA were negligent in allowing Jonathan Ray to run tournaments and handle player money. If he had a criminal history, especially involving financial crimes, then my answer on this point might be different. Number 4, if the 2024 Masters at Bud Hill tournament had been canceled and players had lost their registration fees, what legal options would they have had? Short answer, not many. There is no cost-effective legal strategy of which I'm aware to recover $150. Players who paid by credit card could possibly dispute the charge with their credit card company, but that's technically a private and not a legal remedy. And this type of situation isn't all that uncommon. For example, if you order a pair of shoes online and they never arrive and the shoe company goes out of business, you're probably just out of luck. There's not really a legal remedy that makes sense in situations like this. And number 5, what's likely to happen to Jonathan Ray? I don't know. I suspect he'll face disciplinary action from the PDGA. I personally would be shocked if he ever runs a PDGA event again, although I have read comments from people online saying they would sign up for one of his tournaments again in the future without hesitation. I think it's extremely unlikely that he's going to face any civil or criminal liability. It's at this point in our videos that I typically ask those of you watching for your thoughts on whatever topic we covered, and cautiously I'm going to do that again now. The comments about Jonathan Ray that I've seen online have been overwhelmingly negative. I have to call these situations the way I see them from a legal perspective, and the bottom line for me, based on the facts that I know, is that I don't see Jonathan facing any legal consequences. I tend to stay away from discussing right versus wrong and focus on objective legal angles. But permit me to just say this. It is regrettable that Jonathan made bad financial decisions that almost cost a lot of players their entry fees and the ability to play in one of the top Masters events of the year. On the other hand, if you're someone who has always made responsible decisions and never found yourself in a cash crunch with few options for getting out, consider yourself fortunate. From my perspective, I see a guy who made some serious mistakes, is regretful and ashamed, and has apologized multiple times to everyone who is affected. He's also apparently going through some personal medical issues and filing for bankruptcy. So without minimizing the seriousness of his bad choices, I'm inclined to offer Jonathan grace and forgiveness based on the totality of the circumstances. So agree or disagree, that's what the comment section is for. Let me know your thoughts. And as always, thanks for watching.